Press Talk on Television Nigerian. I am your host, Daniel Atai. In Press Talk, we discuss topical issues as the trend in the nation. Today, we'll be talking about the state of the nation. And the three topical issues that we'll be looking at are one, the PDP protest to the European Union, precisely to France embassy and the EU embassies also. And then we'll discuss the return of President Muhammad Buhari from Ethiopia and straight to Borno State, where insurgents were alleged to have killed 30 persons. I think he went there to commiserate with the victims, the victims' family. And then the third issue is the solidarity of Professor Wole Soyinka and others with the Revolution Now leader in the person of Sowore. So, and with me in the studio to do justice to these topical issues, by my far right is Lawrence Audu, our defense correspondent, and then he is here to talk on from the background of the defense because he is always there at the northeastern part, reporting live the operations of the military. And then, thank you, Lawrence, you're welcome. And then we have at the middle, Mr. Peggy Shandy, the popular Peggy, is a reporter and a renowned analyst. Gentlemen, you are welcome to Press Talk.
Thank you very much.
Now, without wasting time, let me start introducing the topic. On Tuesday, PDP National Secretary in the person of Sowore led the PDP national body to a protest in the European Union embassy. And from there, they went to EU. And the protest, what they are protesting about is the state of insecurity in the country and the verdict of the Supreme Court against the former governor of Imo State, talking about Emeka Ihedioha, whom was removed from office by the Supreme Court. And I don't know what they want the EU to do, but they are soliciting the assistance of the EU that democracy is dying in Nigeria, and they want their intervention. I will start with you on that, Mr. Lawrence.
As a matter of fact, I find the protest by the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, to the EU, to the European Union and all whatnot, as laughable. First of all, you are protesting against insecurity in the country. Yes, good and fine. We have a renewed upsurge of security issues at the moment in the country, no doubt. But the security issues we have now, much as I wouldn't want to start shifting blame, 16 years, you guys were in power. The scenario you created in the past 16 years is what we are experiencing today. Who do you want to blame for your own laxity? You had the opportunity to change the narrative. You had the opportunity to change the country for better. Yeah. And here you are crying foul. Before I even go into that point, you are crying to the EU and the UN and what have you. Where is your independence? Do you have to cry to these people all the time? You have your own time. You never did anything. When politicians armed thugs, give them arms, empower them during elections, what do you expect them to do? These same guys, when I talk about politicians this time, I'm not even referring to PDP alone. But all of them, they are all in this. Okay. You don't arm a group of idle young men, and when elections are over, you expect them to keep the arms and wait for you.
Now, Mr. Lawrence, quickly react to this. Before President Buhari, we know...
I was even going to come to that point. I know where you are going.
Okay.
Before now, 17 local governments were held down by Boko Haram. They became a caliphate in the northeast. The entire geographic location where we are talking about today is the size of Belgium. 17 local governments held down the size of Belgium. Go and check it.
Okay.
I'm just coming back from the northeast. The report is even still going to be presented shortly.
Okay.
We traveled miles in places that have been devastated. In 2014, before the elections, those places became a caliphate.
Okay.
All of a sudden, the same army that we have dealing with insecurity at the point in time is the same army we had. What happened? Because somebody came, motivated the army, provided weaponry, and gave them a spirit. Things have changed. Boko Haram, that used to be a terrorist army at a time, has been degraded to become terrorists, normal insurgents.
Banditry,
that will pick on banditry. They come out. Look at the issue of Alno. I left Maiduguri a day before that attack.
Okay.
Usually, because of the security situation, before you get into Maiduguri in the morning, I mean, once it's 6 o'clock, you have to calculate your time.
Okay.
If you know you cannot make it into the city of Maiduguri by 6 o'clock, just remain where you are. It has been a practice for years.
Why?
You don't come in when it is still dark. I mean, when it's dark.
Okay,
because the security agencies need to ascertain who is coming into the city and who is going out.
Okay.
What is your mission?
Okay.
So if you know you are clean, it is better you don't even attempt coming into the city at that time. If you are coming through Portiscombe or through Damatru, for instance, you calculated your time and you feel you know you cannot get into the city by 6 o'clock, remain where you are. This has been a practice for years.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, the renewed attack that claimed 30 lives and then I think another 10 lives again.
Yes.
We know that the protest might be wrong, judging from the fact that the insecurity were created before this administration.
Sure.
But the administration was elected to deal with the insecurity problem.
Now, the administration was elected to deal with insecurity.
Yes.
Has the administration not dealt with insecurity?
Yeah, yes.
Which tell me one territory that Boko Haram still holds in the northern part of the country. Look, President Muhammad Buhari said something. He said, you cannot continue to harbor criminals in your midst and continue to blame government.
Exactly.
These criminals, sometimes when you are passing or when there is a deployment of troop or movement of troop, by the time they're stationed in one place either to refuel or to take briefing, these people the commuters who move on that route are the same people who go to feed information to terrorists and tell them that the army is coming.
Okay, what about the repentant, rehabilitated Boko Haram that
you see, the issue of the repentant Boko Haram, the issue is very clear.
Okay.
It is a standard practice anywhere in the world.
Yes, I know.
When you get people who are said to have been, repented or turned from their old lives, you need to debrief them properly. Before you release them into the society, you need to do due diligence. Find out where they are going into, keep tabs on them.
Okay. To
be sure that whatever they are doing, you are tracking them for a very long time, and then you are sure. I believe the government wouldn't have announced that, look, we are releasing these guys, 1,400 of them, into the society to be reintegrated if they have not, done this. Fingerprint samples, blood samples, and what have you should have been taken. We are not experts in this. The people who are vested with this, don't forget that the rehabilitation of those guys was not done without the collaboration of partners, development partners, NGOs, and people who are, who are vested with these things. So if Nigerians begin to cry foul or begin to, get sentimental about this issue, it's unfortunate. Where do you want them to go?
Okay. All right. I'll return back to you soon. Mr. Peggy, before I talk to Mr. Peggy, audience that are watching us, please drop your comment. Don't call. Drop your comment on, if you are watching us live, on the comment box so that we can take them if possible. Mr. Peggy, that protest to the EU embassy by PDP, although Secondo himself absconded, I learned he went to Lagos on the PDP primary election. So, but the protest was led by the secretary, the national secretary of the PDP. Now, that protest to EU, do you think that the EU is not aware of the effort of Mr. President and this administration, the military, on ground in Nigeria, seeking their help over what now?
Thank you very much. I find it very ridiculous to attempt to answer your question.
Okay.
The fact that the leader of PDP had to abscond.
Okay.
And then that the EU, the France, most of the embassies that they went to,
yeah, they've been to U.S. before.
they've been to U.S. before, they got to France, and they went to the European Union.
Okay.
It is very ridiculous because EU, France, U.S. embassies are not the Supreme Court. Absolutely, they are not the Supreme Court.
No, they are part of the United Nations?
They are part of the United Nations, has nothing to do with the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Nigeria is not a plenipotentiary nation. It's a state and a sovereign state.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with depending on those. Just like Lawrence said, he did mention the fact that when are we going to be independent? When are we going to be independent? Running to them is not very, very, is ridiculous to me. Why? Because, you know, well, they went there with a number of issues. One of the issues that they also mentioned was the fact that they wanted Justice Tanko to resign. Okay. And then some government institutions that were not functioning, you know, effectively and efficiently, you know, to be either restructured or stuff, you know. And so,
do you think that is justified? Anyway, before I come back to that to ask you whether it is justified for them to have done that or not, we'll just take a short break, a very short break, and when we come back, you begin from there. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we are still talking about topical issues on Press Talk today, from the PDP protest to EU. We're also talking about the president returns to Borno from Ethiopia, and then we'll reflect on the solidarity of Professor Soyinka with Revolution Now leader Sowore. So I was with you before we went on that short break. Do you see justification at all, be candid, from the protest and the demand by PDP from the EU?
Absolutely no.
Why?
Why? Because, you know,
Are there not insecurity enough?
when we're talking about insecurity, it is not just domiciled to APC or to PDP or to ABGA.
Okay.
All Nigerians are affected when insecurity issues storm.
Okay.
And therefore, trying to also politicize it, you know, so that they will now try to put a bad name to the present administration, you know, even to negate major part of the efforts that they're making, even in security. Mr. President returned from Ethiopia, and rather than resting, went straight to the victims. Nyanya was bombed in the past administration, the PDP.
In FCT.
In FCT here. And they even went ahead to threaten to bomb Asorok.
Okay.
Nobody was secured at that time. In fact, the state of panic that caused was something else. And so it was very important, you know, to know that at this present administration, it has not gotten close. It is rather at the outskirts of the places in Borno that you go to. Yes. And so I think we should appreciate.
Besides
you know,
that,
yeah.
besides, you know, when you talk about this issue of insecurity, I mentioned earlier on that you had a situation where the Boko Haram insurgents became a terrorist army operating within a vast land.
They've become ISWAP, Islamic
Just like the way
State of West
ISWAP
Africa.
was operating, just like the way Al-Qaeda was operating. Al-Qaeda was in the Tora Bora region of Afghanistan at the time. ISWAP, you know, vast region of Syria, vast region of Iraq. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Just like you have Hezbollah operating openly in Lebanon. That's how Boko Haram became. Operating in a vast expanse of land. Took over a game reserve.
I saw the army on a footage video where they were like in the bush launching attack against a renewed attack because of
that renewed attack. That video you saw, let me even tell you the characters involved in that video. You had two senior generals leading that operation.
Yeah.
Two senior generals. The theater commander was the one leading that operation, Major General Olusegun Adeniyi.
Okay.
You had A.K. Ibrahim, a brigadier general, who is the acting general officer commanding 7 Div Maiduguri. These generals, instead of staying behind,
the army were, you know, launching attack, and one of the leaders were telling the armies, stop shooting, stop shooting.
No, at a point, I don't know, that's an operational procedure.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to delve into it.
Okay.
But if somebody is behind and opening fire, don't you think a soldier who is in front might be caught in a crossfire?
All right.
You need to take up, you know, you don't just open fire, you don't just shoot.
Okay.
You get to a point, you listen to your commander. If he gets a clearance, he asks you to shoot. All right? So that's just their own guidance. But what I found appalling in that video is the fact that Nigerians have yet to get to understand and appreciate the sacrifices these young men and women are doing for us to keep us safe.
All right, yeah.
Go to the terrain where these guys are walking.
No, to be honest, I appreciate the army. To be very honest,
Nigerians instead were mocking the video.
No.
It is some even said.
No, they have quickly forgotten that.
Some even said you are fighting a war and you have cameras on. For God's sake, it's standard. It's a global standard that your cameras are just mounted on your bayonet, you know, and then you move on.
All right. Well, thank you for that wonderful take. We're beginning to know that the effort of our army, we have to be patriotic in supporting the armed forces, because somebody, it's not because of the money, somebody is out there, perhaps because of chicken change, you know, risking his life, even to die for us, in order to defend us against the insurgents. I think on our part, to be candid to the Nigerian populace, on our part, we must give them that moral support and patriotic, solidarity. Now, Mr. Peggy,
yes, please.
Why was Mr. President? I saw a footage again. You talked about him returning straight from Ethiopia to Borno, and at the Express. They were booing him.
Who are they dead?
I saw a footage where some people were they hired to come and do that.
A few miscreants, a few miscreants, numbering just about 5, shouting "Bama!" So, apart from that video, did you see any other video?
No.
I think
you want to react to
I don't want to react to that, you know.
No. Let's react to it.
No.
A few miscreants, a few misguided youths, a few amajoris, numbering just less than 10.
Whom you can just tip with 10,
you don't even
5,000,
which is 5,000
to do something
50
like
naira.
Right.
They will say that.
So, Mr. Lawrence, you know this is
so
very.
becoming
you know why? Sorry, Mr. Peggy. Sorry to cut you. You know why?
He's the defense correspondent.
No. See, let's be very candid.
Okay.
This is Borno State, which we know 5 years ago.
None of them could come out.
You can't come out in public. So the same person that provided security for you, the same person that motivated the armed forces, the same person that provided arms, ammunition for the armed forces, the same person that provided welfare for the armed forces and rejuvenated their spirits, has come to pay you a condolence. Look, let's not get it wrong. It is absolutely wrong for anybody to be killed under any circumstance.
Yes.
I mourn with the victims. I mourn with the families of the victims.
Honestly,
it is not supposed to have happened.
Yeah.
But for the fact that it happened, you have a president all the way from Ethiopia. It did not happen before he went. I just told you it was a day after I left.
Now, let me cut you there.
You
have finished your statement. The political, acrimony, I could put it, that greeted that character, that behavior from some few persons. What would you say about that? It's an ill feeling,
Mr. Lawrence has actually.
Please, we are not receiving calls. Don't call. Just drop your comment here, and it will be taken. Just drop your comment. No call, please.
Mr. Lawrence mentioned the fact here that it was just a few miscreants who stood on the way, and that can never be regarded as booing. It is not booing, but even if it was booing, so to say, it's a normal thing.
Okay.
Even families have problems. Right. When you're talking about the proximity to power, definitely you should understand that people react differently in different ways.
Okay.
In your families that you sit, it is never easy.
No, I heard Atiku, the presidential candidate of the PDP, even on Twitter, saying that the security is a matter of for all now. That the joke has gone beyond.
Okay, finally.
Yes,
now
finally.
It's no more joke.
It's no more joke.
That everybody should support the armed forces, to get the insurgents out, to be able to. So I think that is the angle. I said the acrimonious, behavior of certain persons.
Vendetta.
Towards insecurity.
Yes.
We politicize security, and it shouldn't be. America don't do that. The European,
let me tell you something.
Don't do that.
After the 2001 attacks,
this is a national emergency. That's
America became more united.
Yeah.
At that point, there was no Democrat, there was no Republican.
Yeah.
Everybody became one.
Yeah.
And they realized they had a common enemy. See, when Boko Haram comes to attack, they don't separate you, your political party, or your religion.
Yeah. We are first of all citizens.
They wipe out anybody that is standing in their way.
Yes. You are first of all citizens.
They don't come separate who is PDP, who is APC, who is Muslim, who is Christian. Yeah. Whoever they meet, they finish and they go.
All right.
So haven't we got to a point where we now realize these guys are our common enemies and we rally around behind the security agencies?
Because whether you are a Christian or you are a Muslim or you are an atheist or you are a traditionalist, there is no justification for killing lives.
You don't have
not even a corporate life.
Sure.
Not to talk of innocent lives.
Very correct.
You understand? And there's no book, no scripture ascribed killing to anybody apart from the governmental judicial verdict.
Not even a religion.
Yeah, not even a religion. Yeah. So any religion whatsoever And when I heard, I even saw Father Kuka on television talking about so many things, creating more acrimony and animosity. We have to. This is Presto. This is state of the nation.
You see,
we have to talk about
what do you
those
expect
things
from someone like Father Kuka, who has betrayed his calling as a priest of the Most High God?
How do you mean by that?
He has betrayed his calling. This is somebody who is supposed to be a conflict resolution expert.
Okay.
So if Martin Luther King Jr. felt America was not worth dying for, today you wouldn't have had a black president in president of Barack Obama.
Yeah.
The blacks wouldn't have had the liberty to vote.
Yeah, it's true.
Anybody who says a country is not worth dying for does not belong to the scheme of things. Father Kuka, you have been given everything you needed in this life. You don't even, everything you have is given to you. And we see him hobnobbing with the people who are opposed to this government. So why would you expect anything different from him? But I will not say anything against him because, in quotes, he's a man of God.
I bet you that's exactly what I was trying to say. Bishop Kuka has actually been a freedom fighter, and he has actually spoken the word of God, and he has even dared the federal government.
He said
many times.
He said something about nepotism there, that the government of the days, once you are not from certain region or you are not from certain religion, you will not be at the middle of affairs. And I don't find justification from that statement. I think we have
you been able to look at the political appointees of President Muhammadu Buhari?
I have been able to look.
When you look, first of all, the ministers were spread across the 36 states.
Yes, and
then when you are appointing certain people into position, you appoint the person who is next in ranking.
Yeah.
So if a particular group of people, for instance, in the military, I used to say this, the people from the southeast generally were never interested in any government position. They preferred to do their trading. Only recently, they now found that, we should have been involved in this thing. Ab initio.
Now, in fact, they are the economic hub of the nation.
Yes,
whether micro or mega. And they are even the
that
Igbos,
is another aspect.
The Igbos,
where they have also marginalized other people.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying it. Now, okay, let me just land. If you have a people who, from the beginning, never believed in a system, they prefer to do their own thing, and they have been so successful in it. All of a sudden, they wake up and they say, no, we are supposed to be. Our people are supposed to be members of the service chiefs. Our people are supposed to be appointed this. Our people are supposed to be appointed that. When you have not even followed the rudiments from the beginning, you don't just wake up. At the time when people were being recruited, your people were not interested.
Yeah.
And this is like a quota system where when it gets to your turn, it gets to you.
But do you know the term, the phenomenon called nepotism?
Now, gentlemen, we have 3, or let me say 5 minutes, and this caller, I think I'll have to allow this caller to speak because he's commenting. I couldn't really let me pick his call and then let him say what he wants to say. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Your name and where you are calling from. I know you've been agitating.
Yes, my name is Comrade Felix.
Okay.
My attention was drawn to what one of your guests there has
Just go ahead straight. You don't have time, Comrade Felix from Abuja.
I'm calling you from Abuja.
Okay.
My Chama Abuja.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. You see, two things caught my attention from one of your guest speakers there, Lawrence. You see, when you are addressing a case as serious as this, I think patriotism and solidarity should come first, not partisan proclivity or whatever it may be called.
Okay.
You see, it's using the word that those miscreants, these are people that have been, some of you don't even know the horror that people are going through.
Can you just make
because that the same Meduguri gave Buhari very massive vote. The same Meduguri in 2015, welcome Buhari, you need to go back and just support the two occasions where he was going there to campaign, and you see the way they came out en masse. We dey hope that as a general or as an ex-general, he could address the situation with security with regard to the Northeast. But what happened? When this man got there yesterday, those people were not fired. There was silence in that town. If you even look at the continent of Zulu has come out on table of this one to cry out. And the president is usually traveling from place to place when his house is on fire, making unguarded statement that he's worried about the insecurity situation of Libya when his house is fully on fire.
All right, let me ask you, Comrade Felix, this one question. Are you listening?
Yes.
Do you think that security could be politicized and masterminded?
The former head of state in the person of
I said yes or no. Do you think it could be politicized or masterminded?
Then the government has hand in it. And we cannot just wave that word away. That's the head of state that said that. Government has the capacity to have ended this nonsense. This crisis in the Northeast has been politicized. It has become an enterprise that has enriched people.
All right, you have made your point. I have gotten.
My second point there is this, please.
No, we don't have time for that again, please. We have run out of time, Comrade Felix. I think some other time you have to come to the studio to analyze. I'm sorry, please. Thank you for that wonderful point.
I appreciate, Comrade Felix. Thank you very much for your points. You made very valid points, and they are quite salient too. But I must also tell you that the last question you were asked, you refused to, you couldn't respond to them because you deviated from the crux of the matter when you quoted General Abacha saying that if insecurity lasts for 24 hours, which means the government is involved. This thing we are talking about today, with all due respect, I believe you are still watching, and I believe you can hear me, did not start today. It's about 11, this is going to be the 12th year of this crisis. So
he even threatened to stop watching if we start bringing your own aspect of
well, I mean,
but we are explicit in the analysis.
Is our viewer, with due respect to you, it's your choice, but you cannot get this analysis anywhere else. Yeah. That's just the truth.
Can I just say one thing? Just to answer Mr. Felix. I think Mr. Felix is actually on the same page with us. Okay. The issue of insecurity concerns all of us. Yes. And we did mention here that it is not APC thing, it's not this, it is, we are all citizens of this country.
Atiku and PDP, they've joined Mr. President
now. And they are now saying that it is no joke.
Fight it
is no joke. We're fighting insecurity issues headlong.
All right. The last point, the solidarity in court from Professor Soyinka and others with the leader of the revolution now, Sowore. Yesterday, Sowore was in court, and we saw professor of that great repute with him and others. Are they afraid that the new alleged charge could come to play? I think the court will still be sitting today. So what is your take on that?
I absolutely want to appreciate
the prof.
Okay. He is a laureate and a Nobel laureate for that matter. I appreciate him for coming. You know, he is a freedom fighter too, so he's coming to commemorate with Sowore, who is in the court. But you see, sometimes when those old men getting too old, sometimes they can do anything.
They said the alleging that a new charge it might be, fired against Sowore. Yes. Do you think that is correct? I don't see Sowore to be that a threat. What is going on right now?
Sowore is never a threat. He has never been and will never be.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's like an eagle with a velvet claw. You understand what I mean? The security agencies, made him so popular.
Yes.
Because he didn't have the fan base that he claimed to have ab initio.
Okay. So because of the Sahara Reporter and
that's his own. It's a media team that has supported him all through, and then he's got a few other friends of ours on the other side, who also supported him. But Sowore being in court, Professor Soyinka being in court yesterday, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is his fundamental right. He believes in the struggle probably, and ways of strengthening a democratic government is by emphasizing or de-emphasizing on what do you call
the rule of law,
and then constructive criticism.
Yeah.
So once you do it within the ambit of the law and you are not insultive to anybody, fine and good. So it is his fundamental right. He has exercised that. Anybody could be in court in support of anybody anytime.
All right, Press Talk will come again maybe tomorrow. And gentlemen, I really want to appreciate you guys for coming into the program, and I think that has been wonderful hosting you guys.
Thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure.
Thank you.
So we, as patriotic Nigerians, this is where Press Talk will stop this morning on TVN, and you can continue to drop your comments in the comment box. Thanks for watching. I have been your host, Daniel Atai.